Picture this. A child comes home from school, bursting with excitement about a drawing they made. They run to their parent, eyes shining, eager to share their creation. But the parent barely looks up from their phone, gives a distracted, "That's nice, honey," and goes back to scrolling. The child's shoulders drop. Their light dims just a little. And in that moment, something profound happens in their developing brain. What I just described isn't abuse. It's not neglect in the traditional sense. But it's something far more common and equally damaging: emotional absence. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most overlooked forms of childhood trauma, the ghost parent phenomenon. These are the mothers and fathers who are physically present but emotionally unavailable, creating invisible wounds that can last a lifetime. If you've ever wondered why some adults struggle with relationships, why they feel empty despite having everything, or why they're constantly seeking validation, the answer might lie in their childhood encounters with ghost parents. And here's the uncomfortable truth. You might be one yourself without even realizing it. Stay with me, because in the next 18 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how emotional absence literally rewires a child's brain. The 5 warning signs that you might be parenting like a ghost. And most importantly, how to break this cycle before it's too late. Because every parent watching this loves their child deeply. But love without presence is like a beautiful song played in an empty room. Technically perfect, but nobody's there to hear it. The science behind the invisible wound. Let me take you inside the mind of a child who's experiencing emotional neglect. When a child doesn't feel seen, heard, or validated by their primary caregivers, their brain doesn't just feel sad. It fundamentally changes its structure and function. This isn't psychology theory. This is hard neuroscience. The moment a child realizes their emotions don't matter to the people who matter most to them, their nervous system switches into survival mode. Stress hormones, particularly cortisol, flood their developing brain. Now, cortisol isn't inherently bad. It's designed to help us handle short-term threats. But when a child lives in a state of chronic emotional disconnection, that cortisol becomes toxic. Here's what happens next, and this will shock you. Elevated cortisol levels literally shrink the hippocampus, the brain region responsible for memory and learning. It impairs the development of the prefrontal cortex, which governs emotional regulation and decision-making. In essence, the child's brain adapts to an environment where emotional safety doesn't exist by becoming hypervigilant, anxious, and emotionally dysregulated. But it gets worse. Children are meaning-making machines. When they don't receive emotional attunement from their parents, they don't think, "My parents are busy," or "My parents are struggling." They think, "Something is wrong with me." They internalize the disconnection as proof of their own unworthiness. This is how ghost parenting creates what psychologists call emotional orphans. Children who have parents but feel fundamentally alone in the world. They learn to suppress their needs, to become hyper-independent, or conversely, to act out desperately for any scrap of attention, even negative attention. The tragedy is that these adaptations, while protective in childhood, become the very patterns that sabotage their adult relationships. The child who learned not to express needs becomes the adult who can't ask for help. The child who learned that emotions are inconvenient becomes the adult who shuts down during conflict. The child who felt invisible becomes the adult who people pleases to the point of exhaustion. The ghost parent epidemic. Before we go further, let me be clear about something. Ghost parents aren't monsters. They're not evil or deliberately harmful. In fact, Most ghost parents love their children intensely. They work hard to provide for them. They worry about their safety. They want the best for them. But somewhere along the way, they've confused caregiving with love, provision with presence, and routine with relationship. In our hyper-connected, always-on world, ghost parenting has become an epidemic. We're raising a generation of children who have never experienced their parents' undivided attention because there's always another notification, another email, another crisis demanding immediate response. We've normalized the idea that children should be grateful for what they have and not ask for more emotional availability. Think about it. How many times have you heard a parent say, "I work 60 hours a week to give my kids everything I never had," without realizing that what their child needs most is something that can't be bought: genuine emotional connection? How many parents pride themselves on being providers while their children are starving for emotional nourishment? The most insidious part of ghost parenting is that it often looks responsible from the outside. Ghost parents show up to school events, they maintain schedules, they ensure their children are fed, clothed, and educated. But if you look closely, you'll notice the child trying to get their attention during the school play, only to see the parent absorbed in their phone. You'll see the mechanical goodnight kisses, the perfunctory "how was school?" conversations, the physical presence without emotional availability. This is different from parents who are dealing with temporary stress or going through difficult periods. Every parent has moments of distraction or overwhelm. Ghost parenting is a chronic pattern of emotional unavailability that becomes the baseline of the parent-child relationship. The 5 warning signs. You might be a ghost parent. Now comes the hard part, and I want you to listen without judgment, including judgment of yourself. These 5 signs don't make you a bad parent if you recognize them in yourself. They make you a parent who's brave enough to look honestly at your patterns so you can change them. Warning. Sign number 1, physical presence, emotional absence. This is the hallmark of ghost parenting. You're in the same room, maybe even the same conversation, but your mind is elsewhere. Your child is talking to you about their day, and you're mentally planning tomorrow's schedule. They're showing you something they've created, and you're thinking about work deadlines. Here's how you know this is happening. Your child has to repeat themselves multiple times to get your attention. They've learned to preface their communications with mom or dad said several times before launching into what they want to share. They've adapted to your emotional unavailability by working harder for your attention. The cruel irony is that you might pride yourself on spending time with your kids. You're home for dinner, you're at the soccer games, you're present for bedtime routines. But presence without attention is just proximity. Your child can sense the difference between someone who's with them and someone who's truly present with them. Children are incredibly intuitive. They can feel when someone's mind is elsewhere, when they're being heard versus truly listened to, when they're being seen versus truly witnessed, and when they consistently experience the former, they begin to shut down their own emotional expression as a form of self-protection. Warning. Sign number 2. Emotion dismissal and invalidation. You're being too sensitive. Don't cry over something so small. You're fine. Stop making a big deal out of nothing. If these phrases sound familiar, you might be unconsciously teaching your child that their emotions are inconvenient, inappropriate, or invalid. Here's what's fascinating. We live in an era where adult emotional intelligence is highly valued. We talk about the importance of emotional regulation, of feeling our feelings, of expressing ourselves authentically. Yet many parents still operate from the old paradigm that children should be seen and not heard. especially when it comes to difficult emotions. When you dismiss a child's emotions, you're not teaching them resilience. You're teaching them that their internal experience doesn't matter, that they can't trust their own feelings, and that emotional expression leads to rejection or criticism. This creates adults who are disconnected from their own emotional landscape and struggle to form intimate relationships. The goal isn't to validate every behavior. There's a crucial difference between accepting feelings and accepting actions. You can acknowledge that your child is angry while still setting boundaries about how they express that anger. But when you skip the validation step and go straight to correction or dismissal, you're missing a critical opportunity to help them develop emotional intelligence. Warning, sign number 3, distracted listening. In our device-obsessed culture, this might be the most common form of ghost parenting. Your child is talking to you, but you're simultaneously checking messages, watching TV, or thinking about your to-do list. You're giving them the leftover fragments of your attention, rather than the focused presence they crave. Children know the difference. They can sense when they're getting your full attention, versus when they're competing with other distractions for your focus. And here's the thing that might surprise you. They would rather have 5 minutes of your complete, undivided attention than an hour of distracted half-listening. Think about your own relationships. How does it feel when someone is clearly multitasking while you're trying to share something important with them? How does it feel when someone puts down their phone, makes eye contact, and gives you their complete focus? Your children experience these same feelings, but they're less equipped to advocate for what they need. The tragedy of distracted listening is that it teaches children that their thoughts, feelings, and experiences aren't important enough to command full attention. They learn to compete for focus, to escalate their communication, to get noticed, or to simply stop sharing altogether. Warning. Sign number 4, conditional love and approval. This is perhaps the most psychologically damaging pattern. Your child receives warmth, affection, and approval when they meet your expectations, but experiences coldness, disappointment, or withdrawal when they don't. They learn that love is something to be earned, rather than something that simply exists. Children who experience conditional love become adults who are terrified of disappointing others. They become chronic people pleasers, perfectionists who are never satisfied with their achievements, or rebels who reject all expectations because the bar feels impossibly high. The message of conditional love is devastating. You are only worthy of love when you are who I want you to be. This creates profound shame and self-rejection because no one can be perfect all the time. The child learns to hide their authentic self and present a false self that they think will be more acceptable. True love says, I love you for who you are, not for what you do. It means being disappointed in behavior while still expressing unconditional love for the person. It means your child knows that even at their worst moments, they are still fundamentally lovable and worthy of care. Warning. Sign number 5, emotional unavailability during crisis. Perhaps nothing reveals ghost parenting more clearly than what happens during your child's moments of greatest emotional need. When they're scared, sad, angry, or overwhelmed, do you move toward them with comfort and support? Or do you withdraw, minimize, or try to fix the situation quickly to make your own discomfort go away? Ghost parents often struggle with their children's big emotions because they trigger their own unresolved emotional wounds. If you weren't allowed to feel deeply as a child, your child's emotional expression might feel overwhelming or inappropriate to you. You might find yourself saying things like, calm down, stop being dramatic, or there's no reason to be upset. But here's what every parent needs to understand. Your child's emotional crises are actually opportunities for deep bonding and trust building. When you can stay calm and present during their storm, you become their emotional anchor. You teach them that emotions are temporary and manageable, that they don't have to face difficult feelings alone, and that you're a safe harbor in an often overwhelming world. The lifelong impact, from childhood to adulthood. The effects of ghost parenting don't stay in childhood. They follow children into adolescence and adulthood, shaping their relationships, their self-worth, and their emotional well-being in profound ways. Teenagers who grew up with ghost parents often become either completely shut down or desperately attention-seeking. They might engage in risky behaviors, not because they're bad kids, but because negative attention feels better than no attention at all. Or they might become perfectly compliant, high-achieving students who are dying inside from the pressure to be perpetually impressive. As these children become adults, the patterns become even more entrenched. They might struggle with anxiety and depression, not because of any specific trauma, but because they learned early that the world isn't a safe place to be vulnerable. They might have difficulty in romantic relationships because they never learned what healthy emotional intimacy looks like. Many adults who were emotionally neglected as children report feeling like there's something fundamentally wrong with them, even when their lives look successful from the outside. They might be high achievers professionally, but feel empty personally. They might have many acquaintances but struggle to form deep friendships. They might be excellent at taking care of others, but terrible at identifying and meeting their own needs. The most heartbreaking part is that these adults often become ghost parents themselves, not because they want to hurt their children, but because emotional absence is all they know. They love their children deeply, but they're repeating the only parenting model they experienced. Breaking the cycle. How to transform from ghost to present parent. Here's the beautiful truth that I want every parent to understand. It's never too late to change. Children are incredibly forgiving and resilient. The moment you begin to show up differently, they respond. The moment you start seeing them, they begin to heal. And in the process of healing your relationship with them, you often heal your relationship with yourself. The first step is awareness, which you've already taken by recognizing these patterns. The second step is compassion, for your child, but also for yourself. If you're a ghost parent, it's likely because you were parented by ghosts yourself. Breaking generational patterns takes tremendous courage and commitment. Start small. Put your phone in another room during dinner conversations. When your child speaks to you, turn your body toward them and make eye contact. Ask questions that show genuine curiosity about their inner world. What was the best part of your day? What was challenging? How did that make you feel? Learn to sit with your child's difficult emotions without trying to fix or change them. When they're upset, resist the urge to immediately problem solve or minimize their feelings. Instead, try saying, "That sounds really hard," or "I can see you're really upset about this." Sometimes, the most healing thing you can do is simply witness their experience without trying to change it. Practice what therapists call emotional attunement. This means matching your child's emotional energy, not necessarily their emotion, but their intensity. If they're excited, you can be excited with them. If they're sad, you can be gentle and somber. This teaches them that all emotions are acceptable and that they don't have to manage their feelings alone. Create rituals of connection. This might be a special bedtime routine where you lie with your child and talk about their day. It might be a weekly one-on-one activity where you do something they love. It might be as simple as a daily check-in where you ask, "How's your heart today?" The key is consistency and presence. The healing power of repair. One of the most powerful tools in breaking the ghost parenting cycle is something called repair. This means acknowledging when you've been emotionally absent and taking responsibility for the impact on your child. You might say something like, "I realize I was distracted when you were trying to tell me about your day yesterday. That must have felt disappointing. You deserved my full attention, and I want to hear about it now." This kind of acknowledgement is incredibly healing for children because it validates their experience and shows them that their feelings matter. Repair teaches children that relationships can be damaged and restored, that mistakes don't have to be permanent, and that they're worthy of apologies and changed behavior. It models emotional responsibility and shows them how to handle their own mistakes in future relationships. Many parents worry that apologizing to their children will undermine their authority. The opposite is true. Children respect parents more when they're willing to acknowledge their mistakes and make changes. It teaches them that being human means being imperfect, but that imperfection doesn't have to mean disconnection. Creating emotional safety, the foundation of secure attachment. At its core, healing from ghost parenting is about creating emotional safety for your child. This means they know they can come to you with any feeling, any problem, any joy, and they'll be met with acceptance and support rather than judgment or dismissal. Emotional safety isn't about permissiveness or lack of boundaries. In fact, children feel safer when they have clear, consistent limits that are enforced with warmth rather than criticism. It's about creating a relationship where your child never has to wonder whether you love them, whether you're available to them, or whether their feelings are acceptable. When children feel emotionally safe, they thrive. Their creativity flourishes. Their confidence grows. Their ability to handle life's challenges strengthens. They develop what psychologists call secure attachment, the deep knowing that they are loved, worthy, and capable of handling whatever life brings their way. This security becomes the foundation for all their future relationships. Children who feel truly seen and loved by their parents grow up to choose partners who see and love them. They develop friendships based on mutual respect and authentic connection. They raise their own children with presence and emotional availability. A message of hope. If you've recognized yourself in any of these patterns, please don't despair. The fact that you're here, learning about this, already sets you apart. Most ghost parents never realize the impact of their emotional absence. You're different because you're willing to look honestly at your parenting and make changes. Remember that perfect parenting doesn't exist, and it's not the goal. The goal is conscious parenting, showing up with awareness, intention, and love. Your children don't need you to be perfect. They need you to be present. They need to know that in a world that often feels chaotic and overwhelming, you are their safe harbor, their emotional home base, their most reliable source of love and acceptance. Every moment is a new opportunity to connect. Every interaction is a chance to show your child that they matter, that their feelings are valid, that they are worthy of your full attention and unconditional love. The beautiful thing about children is that they live in the present moment. They're not holding grudges about yesterday's distraction when you offer them genuine presence today. Start now. Start with the next conversation, the next bedtime, the next moment your child reaches out to you. Put down the distractions, open your heart, and really see the incredible human being in front of you. Because when a child feels truly seen by their parent, something magical happens. They begin to see themselves as worthy of love, capable of greatness, and deserving of all the good things life has to offer. Your presence is the greatest gift you can give your child. It costs nothing, but its value is immeasurable. It shapes not just their childhood, but their entire life trajectory. You have the power to break generational cycles, to heal old wounds, and to create a legacy of love that will impact your family for generations to come. The ghost can become flesh and blood again. The absent can become present. And in that transformation, both you and your child will find the connection you've both been searching for all along.